Tangled. Chapter 1, The Flower of the Sun. Long ago, in a hidden grove nestled deep in a forgotten forest, a single golden flower bloomed. It wasn't just any flower, it pulsed with sunlight, glowing even under the darkest skies. Legends whispered that it had the power to heal any wound, cure any sickness, and even stop time itself. For centuries, a vain old woman named Gothel guarded the flower. She kept its magic for herself, using it to stay forever young. She sang an ancient song to awaken the flower's glow and watched as her wrinkles faded and her hair turned dark and full again. She feared death, and the flower was her secret to immortality. But far away, in the grand castle of Corona, a queen lay ill. She was expecting a child, an heir to the throne, but her life hung by a thread. Desperate to save her, the king's guard searched the kingdom for anything that could help. Eventually, they found the golden bloom. They uprooted the flower and brewed it into a healing drink. The queen drank, and was saved. And when the baby was born, she had hair like spun gold, bright and shimmering. They named her Rapunzel. What no one knew, the flower's magic had passed into the child. Chapter 2, The Stolen Princess. The castle was filled with music, light, and joy. Little Rapunzel, barely a few days old, slept peacefully in her crib, her golden hair catching the flickering glow of lanterns. The king and queen stood beside her, their hearts full. Outside the palace, the people of Corona celebrated the birth of their future queen. But not everyone rejoiced. Mother Gothel, watching from the shadows, burned with fury. Her precious flower was gone. Her youth, her life, slipping from her like sand through aging fingers. She discovered the child's secret one moonlit night. As the baby cried softly in her cradle, Gothel crept in and sang the familiar song. And as she brushed the baby's hair, it glowed. It healed. Just like the flower once did. Gothel knew then, the child was the flower now. But the magic only worked as long as the golden hair remained uncut. So Gothel did the unthinkable. One stormy night, under the cover of darkness, she stole the baby from the palace. She vanished into the forest with Rapunzel cradled in her arms. She built a hidden tower far away, one with no doors, no stairs, and only a single window. And there, she raised Rapunzel as her own. She told her the outside world was dangerous, filled with selfish people who wanted her magical hair. She spun tales of thieves, monsters, and heartbreak, so the child would never want to leave. And year after year, Rapunzel stayed. Growing. Wondering. Watching the stars from her window. Especially the mysterious floating lights that filled the sky on her birthday. She didn't know they were for her. But she felt it in her soul, they were calling her home. Chapter 3, The Girl in the Tower. Rapunzel's tower stood deep within the forest, hidden by twisted trees and creeping vines. From a distance, it looked like a forgotten ruin. But inside, it was full of color, life, and dreams. By the time she turned 18, Rapunzel had grown into a bright, curious, and creative young woman. Her hair had grown impossibly long, 70 feet of glowing gold that trailed behind her like a sunlit ribbon. Each morning, she followed a routine: sweep the floor, make candles, paint the walls, read the same 3 books she'd read 100 times, and talk to her only friend, Pascal, a clever little chameleon with big eyes and a bigger personality. Despite the beauty she had created inside the tower, Rapunzel felt an ache she couldn't name. She stared out the window for hours, watching birds fly freely through the sky, dreaming of what lay beyond the treetops. But most of all, she waited for the night of her birthday. Every year, without fail, thousands of glowing lanterns floated into the sky. She didn't know why. But she longed to see them up close. They made her feel known. Like the world remembered her, even if she had never been in it. "Mother, let me go see the lights," she asked one morning, heart pounding. Hell froze. Her sharp features twisted into a smile, one she wore like a mask. "Oh, you sweet, foolish child. The world is far too dangerous for someone like you." She touched Rapunzel's hair gently, possessively. "You're safe here. With me. Forever." And with that, she kissed Rapunzel's head and left the tower to fetch supplies. But the seed of curiosity had already grown into a storm inside Rapunzel. She didn't want forever in a tower. She wanted a single day of truth. And fate was already bringing it closer. Because far away, a thief was running through the woods, with a stolen crown and a troop of angry guards on his heels. His name? Flynn Rider. Chapter 4, The Thief and the Tower. Flynn Rider wasn't his real name. Born Eugene Fitzherbert, he had grown up in an orphanage, raised on tales of daring heroes and swashbuckling charmers. Somewhere along the way, he decided to become one, stealing his new name from a character in an old book and crafting a new identity around it. Now, with a smirk always ready and a stolen satchel over his shoulder, Flynn was one of the most wanted thieves in Corona. And today, he had hit the jackpot. The royal crown. Stolen right from the palace vault. But his escape wasn't going quite as smoothly as planned. As royal guards closed in and his double-crossed partners tried to trap him, Flynn dashed into the forest, ducking branches and leaping over rocks, until he stumbled upon something strange. A hidden valley. A secluded tower. Tall. Mysterious. Silent. Perfect for hiding. He scaled the ivy-covered wall with ease and slipped in through the lone window. What he didn't expect? A frying pan to the face. Thwack. Everything went black. Rapunzel stood over the unconscious man, breathless. She had never seen a real person in the tower before, let alone a man. Her heart raced with a mix of fear and wonder. Pascal squeaked nervously from the corner, unsure what to make of the stranger. She dragged him into a closet and tied him up with her hair. Then she stared at him, wide-eyed. This man had come from the outside world. Maybe he knew about the lights. Maybe he could take her to them. When Flynn awoke hours later, groggy and annoyed, he was greeted by a girl with flowers in her hair and the most serious expression he had ever seen. "Take me to see the lanterns," she said firmly, holding up his stolen satchel. "Or I'll never give this back." Flynn blinked. "You're bargaining with a crown thief using my own loot?" "Yes." He stared at her, bewildered, and, if he was honest, impressed. And so, a deal was struck. Flynn Rider would take her to see the floating lights. He had no idea that this one journey would change both of their lives forever. Chapter 5, Escape into the World. Rapunzel stood at the window, sunlight warming her skin, heart pounding louder than ever. The world outside looked both terrifying and thrilling. For years, she'd only dreamed of setting foot beyond her tower, but now, it was real. Flynn, still tied with her hair and grumbling under his breath, led her down carefully. Her feet touched the grass for the first time in her life. She froze. The ground felt strange, cool and soft and alive. She laughed, twirling barefoot in the grass, grabbing flowers, splashing in the nearby stream. "I'm free," she cried, laughing. But moments later, she slumped onto a rock, guilt washing over her. "I'm a horrible daughter," she whispered to Pascal. "What if she's worried? What if the world is dangerous? What if she was right?" Flynn watched her silently. He'd never met anyone like her, so full of wonder, yet battling chains no one could see. They traveled together through meadows and woods, Rapunzel's joy bubbling up in waves. She saw ducks, danced with dandelions, and asked 100 questions about the world. Flynn, hoping to get the crown back and go his way, found himself drawn in. Her innocence, her fierce spirit, it stirred something in him that had long been buried. That night, they made camp under the stars. Rapunzel lay on her back, staring at the sky. "Do you think they're stars?" she asked softly. Flynn looked at her. "They're lanterns, Rapunzel. The kingdom sends them into the sky every year, on the lost princess's birthday." She turned to him, eyes wide. "Every year?" He nodded. She didn't speak again. But her heart pounded with realization. Could those lights be for her? Chapter 6, The Tangled Path Ahead. By morning, Flynn and Rapunzel were back on the move, following winding trails that led them closer to the kingdom. Rapunzel's eyes sparkled with every new sight: markets, birds, streams, and wagons filled with laughing children. But danger followed. Mother Gothel had returned to the tower to find Rapunzel gone. Panic turned to fury. She stormed through the forest, vowing to bring her daughter back before the truth could reach her. She knew what Rapunzel was, the lost princess. And if Rapunzel ever found out, she would never return. Meanwhile, Flynn and Rapunzel's path led them to the Snuggly Duckling, a rough tavern filled with the kind of people Flynn usually tried to avoid. Burly thugs, scarred outlaws, and grumpy strangers filled the tables. Flynn whispered, "Stay close. Don't talk to anyone." But Rapunzel, ever fearless, stepped right in and asked kindly, "Hi. Do any of you have a dream?" The tavern fell silent. Then erupted in laughter. And unexpectedly, in song. One by one, the scary men began to share their secret wishes, some silly, some sweet. Rapunzel laughed and sang with them, turning the room from gloom to joy. Flynn watched, stunned. She wasn't afraid of them. She didn't judge them. She made them feel seen. Just as they were finishing, royal guards burst in, along with Flynn's old partners, the Stabbington brothers. Cornered, Flynn and Rapunzel escaped through a hidden tunnel, racing through dark caverns and into a flooded passage. Rapunzel lit the way with her glowing hair, and together they narrowly escaped a collapse. As they reached the outside, gasping for breath, Flynn looked at her in a new light. She wasn't just brave. She was extraordinary. Chapter 7, Truth Beneath the Stars. As night fell, Rapunzel and Flynn made camp in a quiet forest clearing, far from danger for the moment. Fireflies danced above them, and the sound of crickets filled the air. Flynn gathered wood while Rapunzel sat cross-legged, brushing her long golden hair and humming softly. Pascal curled up in her lap, watching the stars. Once the fire was lit, the two sat in comfortable silence. Flynn stole glances at her, noticing how different she was from anyone he'd ever known. No masks, no lies, no pretense. Just light. "You're really something, you know that," he said, poking the fire with a stick. Rapunzel looked up. "Is that a good thing?" "The best," he replied. She smiled, then hesitated. "Flynn, can I ask you something real?" He nodded. "What's your real name?" There was a long pause. "Eugene," he finally said. "Eugene Fitzherbert." She blinked. "Eugene? That's sweet." He chuckled. "Don't say that. I was trying to sound dashing. Flynn Rider was my escape from a not-so-great childhood." Rapunzel leaned closer, listening. He told her stories of growing up alone, dreaming of castles and adventures, longing for more. For once, he wasn't performing. He was just himself. In return, she opened up, too. "I've never been outside my tower," she said quietly. "Never had friends. Never seen the world. I only knew what Mother told me." Flynn leaned forward. "And do you think she was right?" Rapunzel looked around. Trees swayed gently. Stars sparkled above. Her heart beat faster. "No," she whispered. "She was wrong." That night, as she lay on a blanket beside the fire, her head tilted toward the sky, Rapunzel made a silent vow. She would reach the kingdom. She would see the lanterns. And maybe, just maybe, she'd learn the truth about who she really was. Chapter 8, A Light in the Sky. The sun rose over the hills, casting golden light across the meadow as Rapunzel and Eugene made their way toward the kingdom. In the distance, Rapunzel could see the castle's tall spires reaching into the sky. "It's so close," she whispered, clutching Pascal with nervous excitement. Eugene smiled. "Just in time for the festival." When they reached the city gates, Rapunzel paused, overwhelmed by the bustling crowds, colorful stalls, and music in the air. Everything was new: children chasing balloons, dancers spinning with ribbons, bakers handing out warm pastries. Rapunzel soaked it all in. Eugene bought her a treat, braided flowers into her hair, and led her through the celebration. They danced in the town square, laughing, twirling, losing themselves in the joy of the day. But the real magic waited that evening. As dusk settled, the crowd moved toward the harbor where hundreds of lanterns were being prepared. Eugene rented a small boat and gently helped Rapunzel in. They drifted onto the lake, the kingdom's castle glowing behind them. As the sky darkened, the first lantern rose. Then another. And another. Soon, the sky was ablaze with golden light, mirrored by the glowing lake. Rapunzel sat speechless. Tears welled in her eyes. "They're even more beautiful than I imagined," she whispered. Eugene turned to her, holding something behind his back. "I have something for you," he said. He handed her a small satchel. Inside was a sun-shaped emblem, the very same symbol she had painted on her tower walls for years. She stared at it, her heart skipping. "This. I've seen this before," she said. "It's the royal symbol," Eugene explained. "The lost princess, they say she was taken as a baby. Every year, these lanterns are for her." Rapunzel clutched the emblem. Suddenly, the memories pieced together, the hidden symbol in her tower, the strange feeling in her heart, the way the lanterns always called to her. Could it be? She looked at Eugene. "I think I'm the lost princess." He stared at her, stunned, but something in her eyes told him it was true. Rapunzel turned back toward the castle. The lights. The truth. Her destiny. Everything was about to change. Chapter 9, Shadows Return. As Rapunzel and Eugene docked the boat, the sky still glimmering with lanterns, a heavy silence hung between them. The realization that Rapunzel might be the lost princess was both beautiful and terrifying. But someone else had reached a chilling realization as well. Mother Gothel had followed them into the city. Hidden in a dark alley, she watched from the shadows, her eyes burning with fury. The lanterns, the celebration, the royal symbol, it all pointed to one dreadful truth. She was losing Rapunzel. She had to act fast. As Eugene went to get food, Gothel crept up behind Rapunzel and grabbed her arm, pulling her into the darkness. "We're going home," she hissed. "No!" Rapunzel cried, trying to break free. "You lied to me. I know who I am now." Gothel's face twisted with cold rage. "You're nothing without me. You think they'll accept you? You'll always be just a stolen girl with magic hair. Come quietly, or you'll ruin everything." Rapunzel struggled, but Gothel held out a mirror. In it, Rapunzel saw something that froze her. Eugene, trapped, gagged, tied to a post on a ship at the edge of the harbor. "If you want him to live, you'll come," Gothel whispered. Tears streamed down Rapunzel's cheeks. Powerless. Cornered. Heartbroken. She nodded silently. Gothel pulled the hood over her head and led her into the shadows. Back to the tower. Back to the prison. Chapter 10, The Tower Reclaimed. Rapunzel's heart pounded as she walked through the forest toward the tower, her mind a swirl of panic and regret. Every step felt heavier, the weight of the truth pressing down on her. She had left everything behind, her dreams, her freedom, and Eugene. And now, she was going back. Gothel led her without a word, a tight grip on her wrist. Rapunzel's mind raced, she had to find a way to escape. To save Eugene. To finally take control of her life. When they reached the tower, Gothel shoved the door open. The familiar stone walls loomed over Rapunzel, but this time, they felt like a cage. The same walls that had kept her prisoner for years were now her enemy. "You'll never leave again," Gothel sneered, locking the door behind them. Rapunzel's mind spun, her breath shallow. She could hear the faint sound of Eugene's voice, her heart ached, knowing he was suffering because of her. But this wasn't just about Eugene anymore. It was about her. The life she had been denied. The truth she had discovered. The magic in her hair wasn't just a gift, it was a part of who she was, and it belonged to her. As Gothel turned to leave, Rapunzel's hand brushed the lantern pendant Eugene had given her. A spark of courage ignited within her. She wasn't going to let herself be trapped again. With a sudden burst of strength, she pulled the chains of her hair toward the tower's window and broke the glass with a powerful swing of her arm. The moonlight poured in, casting an ethereal glow. She ran to the ledge, grabbing her hair to form a makeshift rope. Rapunzel had been trapped in this tower for years, but she wasn't the same helpless girl anymore. And then, with all the power she had, Rapunzel shouted into the night. "Eugene!" Her voice echoed across the forest, louder than any scream. Far below, Eugene, still tied to the post, heard her call. It was faint at first, but then it grew louder and stronger. The voice he had been waiting for. The voice of the girl who had captured his heart. He struggled against the ropes. And then, he broke free. Chapter 11, The Final Confrontation. Eugene, heart racing, pushed past the guards as they tried to stop him, running toward the tower with one goal in mind, Rapunzel. She had called out to him, and that was all that mattered. He could hear her faint voice again, this time stronger, a beacon guiding him through the darkness. Meanwhile, in the tower, Rapunzel fought against the chains of captivity. Her hair, though magical, felt heavy with years of suppression. She couldn't let Gothel win. Not now, not ever. She had a destiny to fulfill. She tugged the ropes of her hair with all her strength, flinging it over the tower's edge to the ground below. As it unraveled in the moonlight, she began to climb down, her heart set on the journey ahead. But just as she neared the bottom, a cold voice stopped her. "You think you can escape me?" Gothel's voice dripped with venom. Rapunzel froze, turning slowly to face her. Gothel stepped forward, a cruel smile on her face, and in a single, swift motion, she grabbed Rapunzel's arm, pulling her back toward the tower. "You can't escape your past," Gothel said, eyes glinting. "You will never be free, no matter how hard you try. I gave you everything. I kept you safe." Rapunzel shook her head, tears of frustration welling in her eyes. "You never kept me safe. You kept me locked away. You lied to me." Her voice was stronger now, filled with the power of truth. "I'm not just a prisoner. I'm a person with a future of my own. And I'm leaving. Now." With a sudden burst of energy, Rapunzel yanked her arm free and grabbed the lantern pendant Eugene had given her, holding it up as if it could protect her. The lanterns outside flickered brighter, as if answering her call. Outside, Eugene had reached the tower's base. He had seen the battle unfolding inside from the window above, and his heart ached with every moment that passed. He couldn't just stand there. He ran to the tower's door, kicking it open with all his strength. "Rapunzel." She heard his voice, finally. The one person who saw her for who she was. The one who had shown her a world beyond the tower walls. Eugene dashed up the stairs, his breath ragged, each step carrying him closer to her. Gothel turned, realizing Eugene was there. "You don't belong together," she spat, blocking his path. "She's mine. You can't take her away from me." Rapunzel, standing tall now, pulled her hair back, the golden strands glowing like a fiery sun. "I'm not yours to take," she said, stepping forward. "I belong to myself. I choose my own path." With a swift motion, she unleashed her magic, sending a powerful burst of light toward Gothel. The room erupted in a flash of golden energy as Gothel shrieked, stumbling backward. The magic didn't harm her, but it broke the hold she had over Rapunzel. For the first time in years, Rapunzel felt completely free. Eugene reached her just as Gothel crumpled, her body weakening from the loss of control. The tower, too, seemed to fade into the background, its oppressive presence now nothing more than a memory. "Are you okay?" Eugene asked softly, his voice filled with concern. Rapunzel smiled, the first genuine smile in years. "I'm free." With that, the light from her hair enveloped them both, lifting them into the air as they began to descend toward the forest floor below. Gothel, now completely powerless, watched helplessly as they floated away, leaving her behind in the dark tower. Chapter 12, A New Beginning. Rapunzel and Eugene floated down to the forest below, the wind whispering through the trees as they landed softly on the ground. The castle that once seemed so distant now felt within reach. The world stretched before them, wide, free, and full of possibilities. Rapunzel looked around at the vast expanse of trees, flowers, and open fields. "I can't believe I'm finally here, outside." Her voice was filled with awe, as if she was seeing the world for the first time. Eugene smiled, gently taking her hand. "This is just the beginning, Rapunzel. You're not alone anymore. We're going to explore it all, together." Rapunzel's heart fluttered as she gazed into his eyes. The connection between them was undeniable. They had been through so much, and now, they could face anything side by side. As they walked through the forest, they made plans for their future. Eugene promised to help Rapunzel find her way back to her family, the royal family, but more than that, he vowed to stay by her side no matter what. For him, she was no longer the lost princess, she was the woman he loved, the woman who had found her own strength. As they reached the kingdom, the people were overjoyed to see Rapunzel's return. The king and queen, her parents, embraced her with tears of joy and pride. They had searched for her for years, but had never stopped hoping that one day, she would return. The royal court welcomed Rapunzel with open arms, but she was no longer the timid, uncertain girl who had once lived in the tower. She had a voice now, a presence, and a future of her own making. The people saw her not just as the lost princess, but as a strong, compassionate leader. Eugene, always by her side, watched as Rapunzel embraced her new life. He could see the spark of adventure in her eyes, the same spark that had drawn him to her all those months ago. And together, they began their new journey, one filled with love, freedom, and the promise of endless possibilities.